you doing, folks? This is Mitch from Hard Intentions YouTube channel. We also have HARDINTENTIONS.com where we have some really cool stuff. Shirts, hats, art. Check us out. You might find something you like. All right, so we're back with Peter. For those of you who saw part 1 and part 2, we're on part 3. And where we left off was you were you got busted for fishing and you went through a bunch of shit, and now you're getting sentenced, right?
Yeah, I had been sentenced.
Right.
I misspoke. It was 30 months I got sentenced to.
Right.
And I was self-surrendering. And so I went back fishing with the guy in Michigan. I got an apartment because they put me on the federal bracelet, you know, the ankle bracelet, the ankle monitor, waiting to get the letter that wherever you got to be designated for self-surrender. Okay. So actually it was about 4.5 months it took for the letter to come, and I fished that time. A lot of stuff happened there. The fishery burnt to the ground.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he had like I was saying before, he had a big, Ron Walters, he had a big smoke fish operation, big, loading dock, all that. And we were coming in to the, 12 miles out and seeing all the smoke, but I get a call from the Coast Guard and they say, hey, we got to patch you through to a landline. And it was the boss man, or Ron Spider Walters. They called him Spider Walters. He said, Chubber, there's no sense hurrying back here. It's burnt right to the ground. What happened is with all that fish oil in the smokehouses, it caught fire, and there was a chap there that worked helping him doing the smoking. He said it burned, 20 minutes and it burned to the ground. So I got an opportunity to help him rebuild this fishery, and we built it like a fisherman guy would use it, user friendly, with a dock that you could pack back a pickup truck or a big, big semi could pull in there. There's a lower dock, and we built it user friendly and we worked with, he had journeyman guys in there, and we worked with those guys. We fished today, worked today with him to build the fishery. So I was able to help him with that. 4.5 months later, the dreaded letter comes, and he knew it was coming. So we were sort of scaling back the fishing operation because he knew it was coming.
Right.
And the letter came, said to report to Milan, Michigan, FCI. So that's about maybe.
FCI, what's FCI mean?
Federal Correctional Institution. Right. So that one is like, there's Gen Pop there, and then there's a transfer area like El Reno. So people from the Midwest could go there. So I went there to that one. And it was just right after the harvest had taken place, and I had been going back and forth to Wisconsin on the weekends and all that, and running all around and doing that kind of stuff. Yeah. So I went prepared, just say that. So I went prepared to Milan, and I was there for about 2 weeks, pretty much uneventful, pretty good guys. Everybody's moving around, going, they're waiting to get shipped. Everybody's just waiting to get shipped. Right. So in the meanwhile, I had been on the phone with my parents, and they said, hey, look, you're getting in a lot of trouble over there. If you get out, you're just going to be getting back in trouble again there in Michigan. Why don't you come out here to Washington when you get out, and stay here? You can go to Alaska, for a couple of seasons or whatever, let things die down, and it'd be a little bit better way to go. And I said, that's a good idea. So I got a hold of my attorney, and I said, can I designate, when we were doing this, can I designate to West Coast? And he was, like I said, Craig Frederick, he was like really good. He said, I don't see that to be a problem. So he got me designated to Sheridan FCI up in Oregon, just outside Portland.
Yeah, because when you go to prison in the state, you just go from one end of the state to the other, like California or wherever. But when you go to the feds, you could go to prison in New York, Florida, Texas.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anywhere, huh?
Yeah, just about anywhere. Like I said, when I did the diesel therapy and that. So it come through my designation. I'm going to FCI Sheridan, and it's in Oregon. So, and the plan is I do my time. And then my parents were living up in north of Seattle. They were living in a place called Cape Horn. That was like right on the Skagit River, a beautiful home. Come here, you can work you can go to Alaska from here. Right. Let it die down there on the Great Lakes because you're just getting in too much bother. You're getting in a lot of trouble over there. Let this be, this has got to end for you, because I was feeling it. I was feeling all the time I was doing.
Right.
And so a couple weeks in Milan, I go on Con Air, El Reno for a couple of days from Grand Rapids, and then right into Portland airport and on the bus. But I was like thinking I should be going to like the camp, like the minimum camp.
Right.
But that wasn't what happened because you do a PSI, a pre-sentence investigation, and I had violence in state prison,
right?
Documented violence. So they don't want you in the camps if you've got any violence. There's no street charge violence, but lots of violence in prison. But it's par for the course because you're in prison.
Yeah.
That's what happens. I got to think.
Are the federal prisons less violent or more violent? Same?
It's the I thought I was going to the camp and I ended up in the medium at Sheridan.
Right.
And it's like the California politics right away, straight when I hit the yard, couple days and 3 days in orientation. Then they get me my unit. I go and I'm with a pretty big white boy, Big Dan was his name or whatever. He was pretty cool.
Right.
But basically, you got the Cali car, the Oakland car, a Boston car, like that. And I figured I could identify with the Cali car.
Yeah.
But just in general with the white boys, because it was that, Sureños, Norteños, all that's up there. So
yeah,
I think it's a little maybe more watered down than the state.
Right.
A little bit more, and everybody is everything has to be taken seriously. Nobody's going to jump unless there's paperwork. Nothing's funny like that. So
yeah.
You know what I mean? So then as soon as I get there, they want to see my paperwork. The guy that got the keys to the yard or whatever, they were pretty cool white boys or whatever from all over California and Oregon and Washington and that area.
Yeah.
And so I said, oh, shit. So I got a hold of my mother and I said, get a hold of Craig, get him to get me my PSI, everything, get it shipped here because I'm going to need it. Because they were saying, if it's a couple of weeks, we're going to start frowning on you. And so for like a couple of weeks, I've got this meeting thing in the middle of here. Can you see this thing in the middle here?
No.
Oh, there you go. There you go. I had something on my screen. So I was like, oh, right. I need to get my paperwork. So I'm all good. So I get my mother to call Craig Frederick, and then I call her back and she says, he's going to send it right out to you, but it's going to come from Michigan. So I don't know, it's going to be in a big envelope, 9x11. So it might take a minute. So for the first couple of weeks, people were cool to me, but kept me at arm's distance, and they couldn't kind of believe why I was being shipped and all that. And they were thinking it was funny. And Big Dan, who was my cellie, he was like, I believe you, Mac, because they started calling me Mac.
Right.
And yeah, you know what I mean? He goes, Mac. Yeah, he was like, I believe you, Mac, you know what I mean? But I had a guy that was pretty much, he was lower level, tormenting me, like come and give me a shot of coffee. Cause like I said, I came prepared. There was a couple Southsiders. I didn't want to tell anybody that I came prepared. You know what I mean? Because I didn't know the layout, and I needed to get a feel for what was going on in the prison before I started saying, "Hey, look what I got." You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so Southsiders or essays, I'm cool with being all my life with these these types of guys. So I said, "Hey, I got some Yeska. You guys could break me off some coffee and some soups and stuff and some hygiene. I'll kick you guys down." So I kicked them down and got some coffee and all that. And then this guy kept coming all the time, knowing what I had said to the guy with the guy that had the keys to the yard, that I'm getting my stuff, my paperwork shipped. It'll be here. I got a hold of my federal public defender. He's going to send it here from the, and he just kept pressing up, and I didn't know the politics. So I was just kind of laying back in the weeds a little bit or whatever, but he kept coming every day. Give me a shot of coffee and kind of like disrespecting me a little bit. But I was trying to lay back or whatever, because I didn't want to get off to a bad start on the block. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But, after I found out that I was going to get my paperwork and everything like that, it was about maybe 8 days in, and he'd been coming every single day, give me a shot of coffee, pushing up on me for this paperwork. And he was like a minion. You know what I mean? He didn't have no, so the night before I said,
used to have nothing, motherfucker,
and just trying to push up on me, you know what I mean? Because I'm new, and you know what I mean. And
I know.
So, and I'm just trying to go do my time. And there was guys there that had a lot of time. You know what I mean? It's a medium, and it kicks off there. So, I said to Big Dan the night before, I said, "Hey," I said, "I can't." I said, "How am I with this to handle this guy?" I said, "Because I can't deal with it." I said, "It could take 10 days for this paperwork to come." I said, "But in the end, I'm good. I know I'm good, but it's showing everybody, but I guarantee you 100% I'm fucking good."
Yeah.
And he was like, yeah, he goes, "Yeah." I said, "I need to handle this or whatever." I said, "So tomorrow morning, if he comes in or whatever, can I have the cell?" Because he was just come right in the set. There were big steel doors for everybody, and they'd crack them. And then it was like on a roller,
Right.
They crack the doors, and it's 2 levels, and they're like pods, medium pods or whatever. Mm-hmm. And they open up for the day or whatever. They shut them for standing count, like that kind of stuff. So open up for the morning. He comes right away. He knows the mail don't come till 7:00 at night, but he's harassing me about the paperwork. Give me a shot of coffee, just basically disrespecting me. The night before, I tell Big Dan, I said, "Dan, I gotta handle this. Can I have the cell in the morning or whatever?" And he's like, "I was wondering when you were gonna fucking do something." You know what I mean? Yeah. And I said, "Right, yeah." So he comes in the morning, disrespectful or whatever, and I'm like, "Yeah." Dan goes, "Hey, I'm gonna go get some hot water." And he went out and he rolled the door, but he didn't shut it all the way, but just enough or whatever. And he don't think anything's up. He thinks he's got me braced and then I'm scared and all this, and I'm letting him believe this because it's all psychological. So I just basically, he's on me or whatever, and I'm like, "Oh man, I don't want any trouble or whatever." And I took right off on him. Completely just ripped this man a new ass. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying?
California style shit.
Well, and then I'd been fishing, throwing 100-pound boxes of fish around for years. Yeah. So I was just really, really strong, and and just was throwing him around the cell like a fucking rag doll. You know what I mean? And he didn't have nothing. He didn't have nothing going for him. Yeah. And I just continued to beat on him. And then the Southsiders came and they said, you know, the hoorah's coming, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I said, you need to, you know, I sat him down or whatever, because his eye was bleeding and his lip or whatever. And I started trying to get toothpaste and put it in his, you know, in his cut and stuff like that. But I did him. He ended up, they rolled him up off the yard.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then about 2 days later, my paperwork came. I went, you know, and Dan said, I knew this fucking Mac was good already, you know what I mean? And they were like, way to fucking handle it. And then basically I was there for about 13 months, just programming. I got a job doing the landscaping, you know, in the prison or whatever, doing all the yard work and everything like that. And it was pretty much uneventful after that got out of the way. And they seen my paperwork and they couldn't fucking believe it. They said, I can't believe that you got this time for this, you know? Yeah. And then about 13 months later, then they send me,
rat, you know?
Sorry?
You got that time because you wouldn't rat.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's it too, you know, but I redacted, when the paperwork came, I redacted Larry's name, the guy that ratted on me, because, you know, I didn't think he would make it all the way to West Coast or whatever, because I think he went to Oxford, and then I think he went down to somewhere in Florida, but I didn't want him getting killed over it. You know what I mean? I still was like that. You know what I mean? He made a mistake, whatever he did, it wasn't cool or whatever, but you know, and they're like, why did you redact it? Because I just had his first name and not his last name. And they said, why did you, you know, marker this up? I said, because it's a dead issue with me. So, you know, because they're all want, because it's their life. Some of them got 25 years, you know, 20 years. It's their life. And we're waiting on them. We can send word, all that, because they like me. And I was like, oh, no, it's a dead issue. It's resolved, you know?
Yeah, you didn't want to see I get killed over it.
Yeah, over that, you know what I mean?
There's guys in there that would kill him for that.
Exactly. That's exactly what the situation was. So it was pretty uneventful there, you know, seeing some, you know, good fights and all that, but no riots kicked off. And, you know, you had everybody. You had the Norte, you had the Serenos, and my next door neighbors, the Sereno guys, they were fucking hilarious. And we just used to hang out. And then I had the deal, you know what I mean? So I had fat canteen and, you know, and anything I needed or whatever. And, you know, and I was popular, right? I was popular because it was really good. It was the stuff that we grew that I brought with me. Yeah. So then about 13 months later, they brought me into classification. They said, you've been doing good there. I didn't get caught for the fight thing or whatever. So we, you know, your observation or whatever, we're going to go ahead and send you to the camp. And I'm telling you, it was club fed to me compared to the places I'd ever been in my life. I was on the softball team. The food was fantastic. I got on the landscaping crew. I had my own Easy Go with my lawnmower and a little trailer, and I would go cut the grass outside the medium prison then, you know? Yeah. Go around there and weed whack all the way around the medium prison and then do our area. It was a nice prison. I was in there with that Coombs guy that beat the hell out of Rodney King, one of the police guys. He was in there with me. Oh, and wow. He was like, yeah, he was a loner. But guys there, they figure when you come down from the medium, everybody's wanting to go home now. These guys, some of them been doing long sentence. My bunkie, he'd been doing 30 years, from Idaho. He was a really cool dude. You know, Ron was his name.
Looking to stab nobody.
Yeah, they ain't looking to. They're looking to try to go home now. Because they'll send you right up the road in a New York minute, and you start trying to politic or anything like that. Guys are just trying to go home. That they got a job in the kitchen or this. They got industries where they make furniture, for the federal offices. They make desks and all that kind of. They had that there, and I just got on the landscaping crew. So I'm going around, and then about maybe 5 or 6 months later, my homeboy, black guy James, who was on the landscaping crew with me, he was a bank robber in Seattle. He was doing a bunch of bank robberies, and he was just finishing up the rest of his sentence. He had gotten 15 years. He said, they've been calling you to go to admin. And I was like, whoa, wonder what that is. So I went up to admin, and they said, pack your shit, Mac, you're fucking getting released. And I said, released? I got more time to do. What they did is the feds give me credit for all the time I spent on the bracelet, all the time that I spent in federal holding when I had the Wisconsin prison hold. They gave me credit for all that.
Oh, wow.
So they said, we're taking you to Portland Greyhound Station. You're going to Cedro-Woolley, Washington. But by the time you get there, the bus will already have left, and the next bus is until the next day. So I said, well, why don't I just stay the night here and then bring me in the morning? And they said, no, you got to go. I would just get out of here. So I said, yep, that sounds good. So got the bus, or went to Portland, went to a pub, ran around, went to the bus station and stayed there all night. Yeah. Got the first bus at 6 o'clock in the morning, finally got up to Washington, and my parents were like, I called them, and my dad said, yeah, we'll just go pick them up from Seattle, instead of making them come all the way up to Mount Vernon. So went there, went to my parents' house. Really, really good to see them. Hadn't seen them for a while, had been a few years, and ended up getting a job on a farm doing bringing in the hay from the field. They dump it into you got a truck, and they dump it into your truck, and then you go back to the barn and keep dumping it. So I had to get a job. And right. So I got this federal probation officer. He was just an asshole for what I did. And he just was, drug testing me and all that. And I was coming up clean. And then I went to Bellingham, and I hit the boats there that go up to Alaska, and I ended up getting handshake saying, in April, I'm going with you to Alaska to do the herring run and Bristol Bay salmon run. It's a tender. So what we are is we take their fish and we load it on us. We got big tanks and all that. And right. Then we take it to the so they can continue to fish. So it was a guy, really good guy, Wes. Yeah.
Middleman to the drop off point, basically, right?
Yeah. So those guys can still keep fishing, right. Or like the seiners, they might have a couple $100,000 worth of herring. We go up alongside their net, and then we hook them, because we're a big ship. We hook them to us, and then we got a big pump that goes in and sucks all the herring out. They test it to make sure that the caviar, the eggs, are ripe. If it's not ripe, it's not worth keeping them. So they let the bottom of the net out, and if it's good, then we start pumping it out and putting it in our tanks. Yeah. So
the eggs aren't, that's where they get caviar from herring.
Yeah, that's the Japanese want that. The fish itself isn't really worth much, but they might get 10 cents a pound for that. It's the eggs that are worth the money.
All right.
Yeah.
The eggs are no good. They just let them go back in the ocean.
Yeah, let them go back in, and then they'll hit another run that's come in off the sea, because they got spotter planes all flying. They can see the big black masses, going in the water. And then they have an opener. It's we've got a 2-hour opener in Kodiak, at this time, and then you see all the planes and helicopters, and then all the seine boats. They got a spotter guy, and he's telling them where the fish is, and then they corral them up, and they just hope for the best. Yeah. So we did that, and we went all the way doing all the different herring runs. I was on this boat for about 6 months, but I absconded from my federal supervised release because I had asked the federal probation guy, hey, I'm not a farmer, because I ended up, when we got done with the hay and all that, milking cows at 5 o'clock in the morning, milking 260, they got the machines and all that. And I was just trying to make some money and, pay my way at my folks and all that. And yeah. I hated it. I couldn't stand it. And then you wash everything down at the end, but I had a job because that's what they wanted you to do, was have a job, and all, because I had $3,000 restitution I needed to pay.
When I was in Tracy, man, they had a dairy there. By the way, they closed Tracy, DVI. They closed. They did? Yeah, it's closed. It's empty. But they had a dairy there, and they processed the milk there and make, milk and all that. And man, I don't know what they did, but every now and then it would just smell so bad, dude.
Yeah, the methane. Yeah, it's hard on the lungs.
Yes, dude, it just smelled terrible,
Yeah, the methane. Yeah.
Horrible.
And I was breathing all that, all the time or whatever, and I wasn't liking it, but I just did it, and I welded up he got a couple more 100 cattle, dairy cattle, and I made the stalls, all where they go in, and roofs and all. And then I ended up milking cows, and then I was like, hey, I got a job, but I told them Seattle. I want to go out on a boat up to Alaska out of Seattle. And he was like, oh, no, I think you've had enough with the fishing. You seem to get in trouble with the fishing. You should just stay where you're at. And I was like, I needed to make some money,
How long be on parole for?
Well, here's where we go. So I just went. I told my folks in that. It was a good reunion with my parents. I really got to know them really, really good after so many years. And we made our amends with each other. And it was really cool. And my dad was like, he knew I wasn't a bad dude, bad guy or whatever. I just circumstances and drug use and that. And he was just like, this is a chance for you. And I said, hey, I'm gonna jump on this boat with Wes on the Arctic Sun. I'm gonna go to Alaska, and I'll suffer the consequences when I get back, but I'm gonna pay my restitution when I get back. And maybe that'll be a lot easier. So I went 6 months, went up there, did the salmon, did the herring, came back with the boat, put it up, and then we're gonna do some shipyard work. I had met a girl that actually lived in Wisconsin, that lived in Marble Mount, Washington. And that's how I was like, yeah, I said, I used to fish on I fish on the Great Lakes or whatever. And she says, oh, my parents live in West Allis. And we kind of hooked up with each other. She was she was about 10 years older than me, but she was a really good girl, Yeah. And so I was hanging with her up about another 15 miles up the Cascade Highway, up into Marble Mount, Highway 20, going over the Cascade Highway that goes over from Western Washington over to Eastern Washington through the mountains. So she lived at like milepost 108. So anyway, so I get back, I go fly over to Wisconsin to drive back with her, because she used to go summers with her parents, because they used to do like them swap meet things. Yeah. Her father was a really cool guy. A lot of antique stuff and all that. They knew what they were doing. They were hustlers. Yeah. They were hustlers that, they do that like a swap meet thing, but like plates, and he had like samurai sword, all kinds of stuff. Yeah. But anyway, so I went over there, drove back with her. Then I turned myself into the U.S. Marshals in Seattle, because my parents said that they had came a couple times to the house, they wouldn't give him no information. So I made a date that I was going to go turn myself in. I had Karen bring me down to Federal Way in Seattle to the U.S. Marshal's office, Federal Building. Went up that lift or elevator. Said, "I'm Peter McGregor. I'm turning myself in. I've absconded from my supervised release," and it was
number one.
And then it was the two guys that had went to my parents' house. Yeah. They came out and they said, "You did the right thing, man. You did the right thing. We met your parents. We really like them. The Scottish people had a nice cup of coffee. They're really, really nice. They wouldn't give you up, though." That's what he said. You know what I mean? He said, "We tried everything, but they wouldn't give you up."
Yeah.
You know, where you were, you know, and he said they wouldn't, you know, I said they wouldn't do that. But so I turned myself in, and they took me to the county jail or whatever, but I had paid my restitution. I got money orders. I think you could get like 300 or 400 United States postal money orders. I did $3,000 worth, and I sent it to the DNR building where they said to send it to in Michigan to pay my restitution. So that was paid. Right when I got my money, that's the first thing I did was pay that, because I knew that was going to be the key thing, was that money. So it was just coming up on Christmas, and I was about 3 weeks back and forth from county jail to the federal for the violations or whatever. They call it a technical or whatever, that you've not reporting. And the probation guy, he was just for wanting to hang me. But my public defender there, this is a coincidence, my public defender there knew the public defender in Michigan. They were buddies. They went to school together and everything. And he said, "Oh, no, Pete's a good guy." You know what I mean? And, you know, but he just, I don't know how he just keeps getting into trouble, but he's a good guy. And he said, "Well, he's paid his restitution and everything." So I go in front of this Judge Rothstein, a lady judge, and to get like sentenced for my violation. And she asked the prosecutor, and he's just like, you know, "Yeah, he's paid his restitution." And she says, "Yeah, I see Mr. McGregor's paid his restitution." She said, "I have phoned Wes," I won't say his last name, the owner of the Wanderer Fisheries Arctic Sun, to verify that that's exactly what I did, was go up there and work with them. And he said, "Pete's a good guy. Mr. McGregor's a hard worker. He's welcome to come back on my boat anytime. You know, I found him to be honest and, you know what I mean, hardworking and dependable and blah, 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 blah." And then the probation guy, he's going like this, because my old man, when I was away, my old man cussed him out and told him to kick rocks. And I was like, yeah, he pissed my dad off. He goes, "He's not public enemy number one. You know, he's not the owner. You know what I mean? He just got caught up or whatever. He's just trying to make a living. He's a good dude."
Yeah.
And he was like, "Oh, well, I want Mr. McGregor to stay until the first of the year in county, and then we'll put him back out on supervised release." And Judge Rothstein said, "Mr. McGregor," because she's seen all the time I did on this sentence, you know, and the credit and she's seen it all. And she said, "You know, I'm letting you go." She said, "You're off supervised release. You're done. There's nothing more that we can do for you, Mr. McGregor." She said, "Do you have anything back at the jail?" And I said, "Yeah, I got a couple $100 at the jail." And she said, "Well, you'll have to go back to go get it." And the probation guy, he was just, you could see the smoke coming out of his ears. He was not happy about that at all.
Probation now?
I was off probation now. Yep.
Yeah.
So it was cool. That was like a break. You know, I didn't think that was going to happen. I thought I was going to get back out and have this guy breathing down my neck, you know, because none of my stuff was for P tests. I showed him it. The judge didn't say, he just said, don't commit no new crimes and tell us where you're living and pay your restitution. There's a part that says for urine tests. That wasn't checked by the judge, but he kept pushing on it. And then I said, okay, well, I'll give it to you. You know what I mean? I'll give you, but I was peeing clean.
Even though
for him.
Required to.
Even though I wasn't required to, but he just kept pushing at me, you know.
A lot of them guys are prison guards that become parole or probation officers, you know. They got a bad attitude and they take that with them out to parole. But
yeah,
really, they're supposed to be there to help you transition back into society, not harass you.
Yeah. And then you need to be, I said, I'm not a farmer. You know what I mean? I said, I'm a fisherman. I said, I got in trouble. I said, but, you know, everything I do in Alaska is totally above board. You know, that was just one instance. One instance that I got in trouble and that I paid for already. And I've paid, you know, my restitution. But I think my dad kicking him out of the house and, you know, and my father could be pretty intimidating. So I can just imagine how it all went, you know, with my father, because then he sort of had it for me then. So
straight up, get the fuck out of my house.
That's exactly what he said. You know what I mean? He said, hey, that, you know, he got ratted on, you know what I mean? And, you know, and this, that, and the next thing, and get the fuck out, you know, and that's enough. Because they were still trying to see if we would cooperate, if somebody would cooperate, because they weren't quite done yet, but they'd already sentenced us and everything. They couldn't hold anything over us. There was no pressure they could put on us anyway. There was no pressure they could put on any of us. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah.
That case is over.
The case, I'm done with my part. Yeah. As far as I'm concerned, I'm done. I'm doing my thing. So ended up there then doing runs to 60-day contracts doing cod up in Dutch Harbor. Then I started going and fishing in Milwaukee the following year with the vice president of the Commercial Fishermen's Association, straight as it can be, fishing family for years. I went to go pick up Karen again, and her aunt had passed away, and she had a really fancy condo right on Lake Michigan in a tower block. And we were going over the bridge, and I just happened to look down and seen all the fish tugs all lined up. And I told her, turn around, turn around. And I went down there and I seen there was a truck there, and I went and I banged on the door and I said, permission to come aboard. And it was Danny, who I know to this day. I said, hey, are you looking for any crew? And he says, who are you? And I said, they call me Chubber. And he says, you ain't one of them guys that got nicked for going across to Michigan. I said, yeah, I am. I said, but I know your father. I used to look after his boat when he had it up in the door and you know, I know your father really well, Gabby. And he said, all right, well, let me check you out, you know. So gave him the phone number because there was a phone at the place. We get up the lift, get out of the lift, phone's ringing. You got a job, you know, when can you be here? You know what I mean? So the next day. So we went and loaded a bunch of nets and went fishing, and then, you know, pretty much back and forth, Alaska and all that for about 7 years. Got to really good in with my parents, helping them because my father started getting ill. Yeah. The booze, he wasn't drinking, but the damage had been done with his pancreas and everything to where he was getting ill. He was getting sick. You know what I mean? Where they call it wet brain, where all your bile backs up and it just really affects you mentally, you know? And he was having to be hospitalized and this, that, and the next thing. And
like people's liver goes out, they get like ammonia build up and it goes up into your head and your brain.
That's it, ammonia buildup. That was exactly
crazy. I knew some guys in prison that were dying from Hep C. This one guy, you know, and he was Vietnam vet, and I kind of liked him, and when he started getting like that, I would just sit with him for like 20 minutes a day, just cause, you know, and then.
Yeah, just cause, yeah. Yeah, well.
Take much more than 20 minutes. We appreciate our subscribers. Thanks for stopping by. Thank you for watching, folks. Visit us at HARDINTENTIONS.com. Whatever you do, remember, do it hard.